We all have dreams, but how many of us actually try to achieve those dreams? Talk American is all about the passion different people have around the world for classic American cars, but it's also my story. I'm one English guy who got a little bit too tipsy when I was on eBay and got way out of my depth when I bought my dream car. Cars are driving and parking themselves nowadays, but people like me really appreciate American vehicles with amazing styling and buckets of soul. These cars are far from fuel efficient and they're simple compared to what's on the road today, but they're from a bygone era when fuel was cheap and being big was best. Through these vehicles, the American dream lives on, but it isn't only in America, as you will see. If you haven't already seen it, please go back and watch episode 1. If you have seen episode 1, you'll know that I got a little bit drunk on eBay and purchased my dream 1970 Dodge Charger after I got a bit jealous of my friend Mike with his 1969 Dodge Charger that you see here. Back then, I knew I'd bitten off quite a big project to chew, but I thought I could handle it. By the time I got back from America, I was a little bit more worried about if I could see this project through financially. And things were definitely starting to pile up on me as my freelance bookings started to dry up. Talk definitely doesn't come cheap, especially when you book on one of the best restorations people in Europe to do the work, Mr. John Castleman.
What do I see? Loads of trouble. That's what I see.
John Castleman runs JC Autos, now renamed JC American Autos. He's a big character and literally one of the biggest Mopar people you could ever meet this side of the Atlantic. The first time he had an American car to restore must have been the late 70s, and he's made a real amazing reputation for himself. There's not a lot that he doesn't know about restoring Buicks, Pontiacs, DeSotos or Plymouths, Fords or whatever. He's the perfect man to restore my vehicle.
Well, back in '76 I was working for a friend of mine who had a '68 Dodge Charger. Funny enough, it was painted in Starsky and Hutch colours for some reason, I don't know why. And it looked a bit hideous. And I was heavily into motorcycles back then. And I took the car home one night, frightened the life out of me. And that sort of got me hooked on American cars, really. But I've been reading about Chargers and NASCAR racing well before then, you know, when I was a kid. So I know sort of what I needed to know, really. But yeah, I had that Charger for a couple of days and it sort of excited me. Of course, then I had to have one, which brought us up to sort of the end of '76, '77, and then bought one. It was only a small block car at the time, but still very nice. And then ended up buying another 4 others. So I had 5 of them parked outside the house at one point. And yeah, that was just me and Chargers, really. You know, there wasn't too many about back then. You know, sort of knew everybody in the country who had one almost.
By coincidence, arguably John's biggest restoration, most notable restoration, is this, his blue Plymouth Superbird, which coincidentally featured on the front cover of the same issue of the now defunct American Car magazine that had an article I'd written about the biggest American car show in the world. So I had some decent credentials when I drove down to meet John for the first time. By the way, the biggest American classic car show is not actually in America, it is in Sweden. I mentioned this in episode 1 and we'll do more on that later in the series. But the first time I met John, he exploded a few myths that I was clinging on to, like maybe us reusing the wiring loom for the restoration of my new baby. This and other silly ideas were erased from my pitifully underdeveloped restoration plan. I credit my buddy Mike for giving me the confidence to buy my dream Charger. He found his Charger on eBay, but his was an Essex, so no import costs for him. Essex is just northeast of London, in case you're American you don't know. Anyway, I thought if Mike can have a Dodge Charger, Why can't I have a Dodge Charger? And as stupid as that logic is, I'm glad I adopted it, because that's why I have my dream car today, and that's why I'm on this journey. Anyway, Mike volunteered to come down to Southampton with me to supervise my car being collected and taken to John Castleman's facility in the beautiful Surrey Hills. Look at this wheel, what happened there? What happened there? I'm sorry how that happened. That is a bit shit, to be honest. Just as well Mike was with me, I had 2 tyres that needed inflating and 1 tyre was hanging off the wheel rim. How did that happen? There was some confusion about where the keys were, and having the steering lock on certainly didn't help us load up this big yank.
Yes, there we go, winning. We have steering.
Mike had tracked down the keys, but it was Sam, the truck driver, who was spearheading efforts to get this big muscle car up onto his low loader. Because we had basically lost the clearance, not having one of the wheels inflated, we're all worried about the bottom of the Charger scraping along the bed of the low loader, but we managed to get it far enough up the truck so the truck could eventually move off. Not directly to John Castleman's facility, but to a gas station. At the gas station, or service station as we say here in the UK, one of my cameras caught me looking up at the rear quarter panel of my Charger, and I saw a lot of corrosion I really didn't want to see. And that little voice in the back of my head that said, "You've bitten off more than you can chew," was starting to get a bit louder, and I started to get a little bit more worried about the whole project. We followed the low loader for a while, but then we raced ahead to help Big John prepare for my new baby's arrival. John has a few American classics, and I'd asked him to bring in one to get on camera. He didn't disappoint. Mike and I were chuffed he bought a Roadrunner we'd seen at a few shows. You know, I'm a bit scared, to be honest, but it'll be all right.
Well, it should be. It's a big project. It's a big project. You know, there's going to be a lot to do to it. You know, no mistake about that. But it's a fun journey. That's the thing with it. You know, it's exciting because you know you're building a car from scratch, basically.
Looking at finished products of what these cars can turn out like, I just, you know, it just warms me inside. You know, it's my dream. And like you had this dream way before I did, back in the 70s.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's no one better in the country to do it than the man who's been sorting out B-bodies and E-bodies and all sorts of American cars since what, 1976?
Oh yeah, I've had plenty of Chargers in my day. Yeah, they were a few £100 really back then, you know. You know, I mean, back in '77, you'd probably pay £1,000 for a Charger. Wow. You know, maybe less. You know, look what you got to pay now. I bought a Superbird in 1979 for £1,500. You know, it sort of shows you how they've gone. Yeah. But you know, we've been around them since, so we sort of know them. Yeah. You know, they've all got a story to tell, every one of them. You know, so that's good. Yours is a 1970 as well.
Yeah, it's a 70, yeah. No, because someone had a 1970 at the big American Speedfest show at Brands Hatch. No way, there it is, there it is. Oh, wow.
Here it comes. Let's have a look at it.
There's my baby. Where do you want it?
Well, at the moment, I don't suppose it rolls anywhere, does it?
Well, see, this is a bit flat, but it rolls. This is obviously an absolute nightmare. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, well, we can get it on a trolley, Jack. That's not a problem. Move it.
But this one I pumped up this morning using the electronic air pump thing, and the front. So we got 3 out of 4 ain't. Yeah. 3 out of 4 ain't bad, John.
That's not bad. Okay. Well, she's here.
And look, I've got a magnet because I didn't do this in Missouri because I was worried, but. Looking at this magnet I took off my fridge, look, it can't be all filler, and then it ain't. Look, it's solid, and then...
Yeah, well, someone's put a quart on this side.
Yeah.
Someone's put a quart on it quite badly.
Yeah, it's not brilliant.
No, and it's completely rotten under there.
So Big John's initial reaction showed he was less than impressed with my new purchase, and coming up in future episodes we will take a closer look at it and John will compare it to 2 other Chargers he has in his workshop. Was my dream car going to be a nightmare? We all hope not. But in the next episode, we step away from focusing on my story and we hear from James, a man who was restoring his Charger and a few Cadillacs to boot.
Getting covered in oil and hitting your knuckles on spanners is all the fun of it, the cars.
If we've kept you entertained, please remember to subscribe to us on YouTube. Visit talkamerican.com for more information and additional content, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook for updates and alerts. But for now, it's bye-bye.